So, bit about me. I have been like actively working in the Bitcoin space for the last 2 years, but I was like a contributor for the last 4 years. I have been like going like while I was at university, I've been contributing to Bitcoin projects nearby. My main project, or like, let's not get into technicals. I work at the research team in Blockstream. So mostly my job is to look for new things which we might have in Bitcoin, say 5, 10 years down the line, do some research on that, try to build a prototype. And we have a version of Bitcoin called Elements, which has more features and which we test aggressively. And as you will learn in this event throughout, that making changes to Bitcoin is hard by feature design, and you have to be a good engineer and a good researcher to your ideas should be very sound to actually make them through. So we research new ideas and try to hopefully get them in Bitcoin in the long term. So yeah, that's just briefly about my work. And today I will be just informally chatting about how uh, like CS relates to Bitcoin in general. And you may be from different aspects of like Bitcoin of computer science, and I'm sure you will find a place in Bitcoin where things are interesting to you. So yeah, let's just get started. I'll share my screen. Uh, yeah, are we good? Yeah. So the purpose for this presentation is that it's not for like you will learn these things throughout. It is mostly for me because, as you'll see, Bitcoin is so vast that I had to, and I'm sure I forgot some things while I was listing this, that it's so vast that you can find computer science everywhere throughout. So let's just get started. So okay, yeah, the first thing, yeah, in general, you would have uh, in Bitcoin, which is most university students would not be experienced with, is like industry software engineering. It's different from how you might like were how you might have experienced had if you had done an industry internship before, where you have like a manager dictating your goals and having a like industry oriented approach to moving things fast. Whereas here we have more sort of there's an open source code base. Most of the projects you will be working on would be open source, and there is a community around it where you have to like understand how the process is, be a part of the process, review others code, contribute your code, address everyone's feedback, and as a community sort of move forward when you contribute. So you will have to like, it's just not about generating a single file and just making sure that you get good marks in your assignment or just pass all your test cases. Here you actually have to write code that is like that will be maintained 10 years down the line and should work for like should not only work but should be maintainable and readable by everyone. So there are good practices and you will learn those throughout. But at its heart, it is like Bitcoin is just a software. So you will have to do software engineering to go forward here. And by the way, if you have any questions or if you want me to elaborate on any particular aspect, just like type in chat or ping Adi or just speak up. We will discuss. So again, these are in no particular order of like importance. So the next thing is like networking aspect. So Bitcoin at its root is a peer-to-peer network. It's a software, and every node or every computer in this network runs this software. So you would, if you have done like networking courses, and if you know how to send data messages across computers, across systems, using different like such that your data is not lost. You should have good reliability and the way in which you send data to transaction, how they're propagated throughout the network. You would face lots of like networking challenges dealing with low level sockets if you are into that, or at a super high level if you have done some like advanced courses. There is like consensus algorithms where you have to make sure that all the systems participating in the network arrive at the same result. So that is and in this you will find like most of the contributors to mentors at Bitcoin Summer of Code deal with different aspects of like are majorly into networking, where they deal with things like mempool, which you will learn throughout the course, but it is mostly computer networks, where just communicating information from one system to other system, and uh, in a peer-to-peer fashion, where you don't have like a central server, but all these machines just communicate information to each other and mm, arrive at consensus. So not deliberately going into details, but if you want me to elaborate on some of this, we can discuss it. This is more this is something which at least I don't know if it is covered at universities at undergrad level. It's not that much, but at a higher, I see this. What protocol does Bitcoin follow at the peer-to-peer? Yeah, at the P2P layer. So Bitcoin has its own custom messaging protocol, which you will learn uh, like throughout the course, where where you communicate inventory information. I'm sure there's a technical name for it, but you say, "Give me these transactions," and then you uh, broadcast messages like, "I have give me inventory for this message, give me this transaction." Or I have these transactions, and you broadcast it to your neighbor. So at its core, it is a broadcast protocol, but there are many tweaks inside it which make it like it's not a naive broadcast protocol where you just like send your messages to all your peers, but a good understanding is like it just floods. You get a message, I hear about a message or a transaction, I just tell all my peers this is the new transaction. It's not exactly how it works, but it's a good way to just start at a high level. Then you can figure out how to optimize these things. And there are papers, and one of the students at Chain Code, like Gleb Nomenko, who has worked on improvement protocols for transaction relays and better networking protocols. So that is uh, okay. So yeah, I'll get to digital signatures, Nikhil. So the next thing is cryptography. So this is something which is a more advanced topic. So you might not expect everyone who to actually, you don't even need to understand this. Like even if you are like even if you conceptually understand what this is supposed to do, that's good enough. But if you are actually interested in this, so this is like my area where I like did my thesis and my personal interest, so I sort of highlighted it. But things here include like public key cryptography, where you should be able to authenticate that I am spending this much amount of Bitcoin, and nobody else can spend that Bitcoin. So whenever I am sent some money to like my public identity, like Sanket or my public key, it is only me who knows the password to like the user account Sanket that should be able to spend it. So like the public key is like my name, and password is like my secret key. So instead of having a system like Facebook or whatever Zoom, where you register somewhere and you check your username and password against this, here there is no central system. You just pick your own username, and you are able to prove without like this is the corresponding password. And digital signatures essentially serve like a proof that you can log into your account. So that's like a high level summary for how your like digital signatures work. Your public key is your username, your password is like your private key, and your signature is something which proves that you know your private key. So one naive way would be to just tell everyone your password, but that's not a good idea. Like you cannot just Otherwise, others will steal your coins. The safe way it is done in cryptography is you just sign. It's like signing on a check or something. You just sign, and because it is digital signature, not handwritten signature, it has some properties where you cannot easily copy other signature your for your own things. So if you create a signature, you can be sure that you know the password, and that is the guarantee which like cryptography brings into this. Yeah, how exactly is the signature verified? That is something which I don't want to cover here because it will go into a lot of math and technical details and some how it's verified. But if you are curious, I can send you resources afterwards. So yeah, any other questions? I don't have a lot of material, so hopefully you guys have more questions for me to talk about. It can go from networking cryptography to what is Bitcoin in general, or what is it like to work in Bitcoin in general, or India and Bitcoin, or what do you see of India and Bitcoin, or any other questions. You are welcome to ask me. It is an informal talk. So, but I needed to have some subjects where I can speak about things and to have some direction. So I have how to relate computer science with Bitcoin. So next broad thing is like privacy. It is technically not a computer science subject, but it requires some sort of analytical thinking to figure out if your privacy is being like if your privacy is being damaged in certain way. For example, like you are like simplest thing might be like you are a machine who is like your computer is running Bitcoin software, and based on like the time of the day in which you broadcast transaction, I can tell that I'm not going to be conducting Bitcoin transaction at 4 a.m. in the US. But if there's someone conducting transaction is not in the US or he is in India, so there is like a lot of tricky things when it comes to privacy, where you want to preserve your privacy of your location, of your machine, of the coins you're spending, the amount you're trying to spend. And there's a lot of research that goes into exactly how to analyze like what does it mean to uh, like have a transaction be private. uh, okay, let's just take a slight tangent, and we have would love to know, Nikhil says, would love to know how Indian developers perspective and contribution have changed since the time you graduated and present. So I'm talking from the perspective of contributing to like the Bitcoin ecosystem. So Bitcoin has existed in India since like 2014 mid or something, like as in there were businesses who were ZepPay, or for example, some businesses were dealing with Bitcoin, but those were mostly from the point of view of exchanges where you were allowing people to trade Indian rupees and buy Bitcoin, and vice versa. So that is like technically viewing Bitcoin as a financial instrument. Whereas what I am trying to answer right now is more from the side of like the technical contributions towards Bitcoin. And to the best of my knowledge, like we didn't have any like maybe there are like cool part of Bitcoin is you could be anonymous and you could contribute to Bitcoin. So maybe there is like a lot of anonymous developers who still contribute to Bitcoin could be from India. But to the best of my knowledge, there aren't many like developers, or at least I cannot remember anyone who like contributed, see, like when I was in like 2016 2017 to Bitcoin ecosystem. So when I say like Bitcoin ecosystem, what I mean is like in general something bigger than like Bitcoin Core, which is like Bitcoin Core is like the main software which runs, which is run by majority of computers in the Bitcoin network. But you have things which build on top of Bitcoin Core, or things which help Bitcoin Core, like the cryptography library which Bitcoin Core uses, or some scripting tools which Bitcoin Core uses, or other research like uh, new ways to broadcast transactions and so on. So yeah, all down there were not that many, but since the last 2 years, there has been a good surge of people who have been putting in their own time to like try to learn about Bitcoin and contribute in small ways. So as you will like learn through the course, it is a giant thing. Like to understand these things, it is a bit challenging, but in a structured way, you will like go throughout. Initially, it was like when I started, for example, I had to like I was taught by someone else. We discussed a lot of things like how it works, and I had some computer science background where I dived into the code base and figured things out. But now, through this workshop or through many of the online resources, like Bitcoin.stack exchange, for example, is an amazing site which we didn't have. If you are computer science student, you have always used Stack Exchange as like some or the other, some or the other form you like you have used it. So in so right now we also have an awesome resource for Bitcoin.stack exchange, which we didn't have previously. So if you have any technical question about how Bitcoin works or how things should operate, that is an excellent resource which has good answers now. Previously we didn't even have those resources, but uh, now things are changing. So hopefully from like Indian developers perspective, where we viewed as in like most of the people when we graduate, we view things as like computer scientists get a job in a big tech company which pays you the most or something, and we are not technically into that much into open source route. But with this like changing culture which was in the West for like 5-10 years before is gradually shifting towards India. So you can yeah, you can easily start contributing and figure out if this is something you like or not. And it is not something today that you have to do for like as a volunteer. If you are good at like if you learn and you become good at it, companies would help you contribute to the Bitcoin in general or help you have jobs in Bitcoin space, which has been a case for the last like the bull run, which we call, where the price just like exceeded. So that's a long-winded answer. I'll try to keep these relatively short. Next ones. So how does someone make sure that the algorithm Bitcoin follows for maintaining its price is genuine as it fluctuates, and how people know it's valid and no one is? So this question is related to Bitcoin price, and I think that is the question has some confusion, so we will address it later. Bitcoin
Yeah.
price is, yeah, independent of like it's like as in the technical, like even if you have the best techniques used in Bitcoin, it does not directly affect the price. So
Yeah.
I'll answer that later if you have time.
I think what you could probably answer for that is the consensus part. Maybe elaborate on that. That is, however, independent of the price. We'd probably have to,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of questions about price. It's the only thing that grabs the
So
attention of the masses. We'd have to probably organize another talk for that. But let's avoid price talk, and then maybe you can talk about the consensus, where maybe it relates to how no one can mess around. No single entity can mess around.
yeah, okay. So yeah, so if we ignore the price aspect, like it fluctuates a lot, and that is something which, as Adi said, we can deal with later. So the cool part about Bitcoin, so if you will be taught this throughout, is I can send money to Kashish through the internet, and there is no one in the world literally, like they can stop it. And that is something which we didn't know previously before Bitcoin how to do. For example, like if you want to say donate to WikiLeaks. Now I don't know if you are aware of WikiLeaks, but it was a like it is a US based it was a US based organization which exposed many of the wrongdoings of the government, and now they froze all their bank accounts, or they didn't allow people to transact with them. And I, for example, believe that WikiLeaks had a good cause. And if I want to support what they're doing, there is no way, because they just have been cut from their system. There's just one example of where and if I want to send money to WikiLeaks, uh, yeah, the thing is, even the US government, which is like the strongest entity in the world, they can't do anything about it. That is some power which you cannot expect. You just have with your computer and with the Bitcoin software, which is, yeah, I just cannot think of how you like. There's no messing around with like sending one Bitcoin to it. It is completely like censorship resistant. You don't have to ask anyone's permission. You don't have to create a bank account. You don't have to wait for any bank approvals. And so that works around, like there is mining and some other part where the technical how that actually works, which you will learn through the course. But the cool thing about that is essentially underlying is, uh, if I send one Bitcoin to you, you can be sure that it is correct, and you don't have to ask government of India, or you confirm with your Canara Bank or someone with says key, did I really receive the balance or not? You can yourself do it, and you can be sure that it is correct. So can you explain more about Tor? So Tor is an independent project apart from Bitcoin. So what it does is it allows you to maintain, like hide your IP address and maintain your network privacy. For example, if the current problem would be if I am sending some amount of bitcoins from my computer to Shubhankar, then anyone who is like observing the network can see that there is an IP address from US, which is or from my city, which is sending like one bitcoin, and they can trace it back to my home location. They can know who I am, and as we discussed about privacy, that is, it goes hand in hand with Bitcoin. If I am transacting one Bitcoin to anyone in the world, it is only mine and their business. No one else in the world should know that we are transacting, or how much amount we are transaction, or even if we transacted or not. That is the ultimate goal. So all the technologies which help us to get towards that is, like one of them at network level is like Tor. So what was my first contribution or the full pull request I made to the Bitcoin ecosystem? I think I started really small. It was like you will learn about Bitcoin test framework, and that is where I made like few of my contributions. And it was, I think, like some wallet generation things. So yeah, mm, it is mostly about if you should run certain tests when the wallet is present or not present. And I think there were good instructions on how to do it. It was tagged as good first issue, and I saw, like, it was like 3 years ago, and that was my first contribution to Bitcoin core project. But later I got an internship, and there I worked on Miniscript, which is like a new way of looking at Bitcoin script, which I think is, which may be a part of this project course. So yeah, doesn't the ISP know that you are, yeah, that we are using Bitcoin? So yeah, I won't get into the details of how Tor works, but you can, like, the ISP knows that you are using Tor, but you can, like, there are techniques where you can avoid that. Like you can do port forwarding. You don't have to use Bitcoin port to send Bitcoin traffic information. So that is about how Tor works. We can get into that later. Mm. Okay, since you're majorly into cryptography, yes, Shruti, I can provide some resources. Overview of basics of cryptography. I think that, like, covering the basics is like beyond 30 minutes, but I will. Mm, I think the analogy which I gave is just enough for this course. If you are interested, I can share some resources. I think Adi also shared few basic resources. I can share more resources on how to. Can you explain how Bitcoin prevents double spending? So, yeah, by show of hands, I don't know how, is there a show of hands feature in here where we can see, is everyone aware of like Bitcoin mining in general? Like, but I think that's like, if that is not covered, we should not go into what a double spend is and how Bitcoin prevents double spending. That is more
Yeah,
uh, yeah, that is more technical question which you will cover throughout the
yeah,
course.
yeah.
So
Maybe let's maybe continue with the different components, the CS
sure.
components, and then
Yeah,
I
sure.
think I can speak out the questions that may be relevant for this audience,
Sure.
and avoid the ones that we are going to cover later in the course.
Yeah, sure. Let's do this. Is there a possibility that privacy can be compromised in the P2P? Yes, there is a possibility, but yeah, it's out of scope for now. Uh, Algorithms. I think this is where most of, like, at least Indian peoples are, Indian students are studying and are most interested in. At least I was in your shoes about like 5-6 years ago, where mm, yeah, where we just did like all the online. different algorithms and solving problems on different websites. And to your surprise, it is actually useful somewhere. Like the things which you learn in the things which you learn in like trying to solve, like for example, the knapsack problem, or uh, different solutions to like set reconciliation tree algorithms, recursive algorithms, are directly used in like my job daily. Like for example, uh, almost I write like recursive algorithms for tree type data structures every day. And there are things like, I think you had a problem for solving like block template using knapsack. You can do fee estimation, which is another challenging problem. So there are ways in which you can use your data structure and algorithm skills to improve some of the existing algorithms. It might require more reading, but this is definitely where, like in general, folks tend to be like interested and dive deeper into. It might be hard to contribute here, but it's definitely interesting, and you will find good resources about it as you go forward. So the next thing is database systems. So Bitcoin, at every software, you have a database for storing your transaction and block, and there is another database for storing your money. And this database implementation is not as simple as your regular database implementation. Here you have to, like, these are special database implementations which can be optimized for different requirements. For example, the block or transaction database is just like an append only database where you just put things into there. Or if you have Bitcoin wallets which need to be more private and safe, like you are saving your private keys in there for different addresses. So that is where you will like you want to be more careful about how you save these things and whether things are encrypted or not. mm, yeah, I think I'm almost done with this. We can discuss I just have a couple more points, and we can just shift to answering questions permanently. uh, Architecture or operating systems. So this is something which, in my experience, I don't know how things have changed in 4 or 5 years now. We don't have like, it is taught. It is not taught that good in like Indian schools as compared to Western schools. So we are not that well grasped with concepts of how do operating systems actually internally work, system calls, and memory alignments, architectures. So, but this like there is a lot of scope to contribute in this. So, as I mentioned, it is important that everyone in the entire network has the same Bitcoin software. But if you go to Bitcoin, github.com/Bitcoin/Bitcoin, you will get a code base. Like you'll just get uh, you'll get a source file. But from that source file, you need to come up with a binary, and you have to make sure that everyone in the network comes up with the same binary. What if your compiler is compromised? What if the software you're downloading your dependency is compromised? Say, for example, I'm running like 100 Bitcoins. I have 100 Bitcoins and someone just tampers with one of the dependencies. I am running the risk that I will lose like $5-10 million. So it is very important that this runs across all the different operating systems, is consistent through all the different operating systems, and has the same view. There is no, it cannot be the case that people running Windows on Bitcoin would have a different, according to them, I have like 100 million, like 10 Bitcoins, or people running Unix say I only have one Bitcoin, then the network is inconsistent. So you have to make sure that all of the way in which your like Bitcoin software is implemented is consistent throughout all architectures. And you can also, like, there's a good example where you can abuse like your 64-bit, 32-bit low level architecture to write fast and efficient code, which is something out of scope for now. But if you are interested, you can look into how to they actually write super efficient code where you not only write, like, if you cannot just say it is ON and you're done, but you also actually have to look at how it is like done at hardware level and which instructions are faster than some other instructions and so on. So that is something a bit mm, complex for now, but if you are into it, there is good scope. And one other thing which generally Indian tend to be good at is like linear algebra, mathematics, probability, statistics, and that is used massively. So you have things like block propagation, or transaction mempool syncing. So essentially, block propagation is all of these. Like I create a new data block and I want to send this data block across all the like network as fast as possible. And how do I do that? How should my network connection be? And there are some other constraints where you don't know who your peers are, and you don't want to just naively flood your information, but you need to have some intelligent like you need to do some math and linear algebra to figure out how effectively to propagate your information so that it is not sent repeatedly throughout the network. So this is more challenging because like if every node had like an identity, like I knew, for example, this is Gaurav's node, this is Sanket's node, this is Adi's node, then it would have been easy. Like I could know, does Adi have this block? No, don't send him. If it has, but on this network, there is no identity. No one has a name. You can come in the system, you can go out of the system. There is no there's no, it is in permissionless system. There's no identity. So this this makes the problem even more trickier. Then you have game theory. If you are, this is another topic which is not covered that much in mhm, like in university level courses, but you need to have game theory. Like someone can attack the Bitcoin network, but is it really worth for them to do it? How much money will are they risking to lose if they try to attack uh, if they try to attack the Bitcoin system? So things like that come under the game theory category. And finally, you have things like formal methods and programming languages, which is so Bitcoin is, so someone's question was about like, can you elaborate on Bitcoin script? Where, so this is, I'll elaborate a bit here. So what we think of money in general is I send money from me to someone else. But what actually is implemented is I send money from me to any function, like a computer science function, any function, and anyone who can provide inputs to the function such that the function returns true gets to keep the money. So usually the function is I send money to someone's public key, and if anyone can provide a signature, which is like the input, then they get to spend the money. That is the most common case. But you're not restricted to that. You can do many other things. Like mm, there's another system which we call like Lightning Network, which uses complex things like time lock contracts. You can do something like I send money to Tushar, for example, but Tushar can only spend it after 1 year. Or I send money to Prakash, and Prakash can only send money if he knows a password to certain file. And there are extensions for working on this, and there are new upgrades for which you can like verify what things you're doing is actually correct or not. So if you are into formal methods or programming languages, this is one thing which I was also working on. Like it's called Miniscript, which allows you to like, uh, analyze Bitcoin scripts and figure out what scripts are actually doing and if they are doing the same thing which you want them to do. So this is challenge, like this is important because if you make a bug in your Bitcoin script, there is no update. Like I'm sure all of you like write computer programs, and none of you almost write a program which is 100% correct for all possible inputs in like in your first try. You submit it and then you figure out, it is bug, like there's this corner case which I am wrong, there is something which else which I'm wrong with. But here you're dealing with money. So imagine if I ask you to write a program and you say, when you give me the program, you can take long time, but when you give me the program, you have to be 100% sure that it does what it does. If there are any bugs in it, then you can like risk losing money. And that is something where you have to be very careful about. Like uh, you cannot just write anything which you want. So, and writing in Bitcoin script is a bit challenging. The interface is not as friendly as like a programming language like Python. So we have something called Miniscript, which helps you like write things in Bitcoin script, but is still more still allows you to like actually verify what you're doing. So yeah, at a high level, this is like all the various components, and this is all I have for the talk. I'm sure I'm missing things, and I'm sure there are people who are doing machine learning for fee estimation or some other things which I am not aware about, and many other aspects which I might have missed. So we can like go into questions about these things or any other topic which we want to touch right now. So can yeah, I cannot answer the double spending one. What topic of networking should you study? You will look at those topics in this course for to better understand Bitcoin. You will look at like you need to know some of the things like how like data is sent from one peer to other peer and how transactions work in general. So and some C programming, but you will learn these topics throughout this. Uh, what is a block template? Yeah, so I think block template is essentially the set of transactions which you want to put in a block. So I think you solve one of the problems where like you had to do a knapsack version of something. At least some of you had that for your like as a screening type thing. So the transaction collection is called template. Like which transaction should you include in a block? So yeah, all these questions, what happens if all 25 million Bitcoins are mined? You will learn this in the course. I will skip this. Uh, what are smart contracts exactly? Yeah, so smart contracts are, so as I said, money is sent from one person A to person B normally. In smart contracts, you send money from like one contract to other contract, one function to other function. And this function which controls the money is called like smart contract. The contract could be, for example, like this is not how like this is called like oracle aided contracts. Ignore the term, but contract could be, for example, if it rains tomorrow, give one Bitcoin to Rishav, and if it does not, then give one to Sid. Uh, how are Bitcoins mined internally? You will learn that in the course. That has a more involved answer. Since you have worked in the industry, can you tell more about experience? Okay, yeah, I can go into this. I think this is more more relevant to this topic, which you will not be learning in the course. All these other things you will touch throughout the course. So let's get into yeah this question. It asks me about my experience in this ecosystem. So I have also worked at like regular industry as a software developer. I was at Samsung Electronics, South Korea, where I worked there for about a year and a half as a software developer, where I got into Bitcoin. So it is different. Like when you work as a software developer for an industry, you have industry goals, industry products where you have to deliver your deliver your product and to your manager or to your company, and you run on some timeline and you try to try to optimize towards that. Here what you are doing is like in an open source it is more of a community effort. It is not a single company which is doing something. It is not you or your just peer who is sitting beside you. Here it is more you working with all the numerous developers in the world trying to change this open source project. Here you won't have meetings which will like regular meetings with your video meetings which people will help you. Here you would discuss on things like GitHub issues where you would raise your concerns. You will go to Bitcoin.stack exchange, you would go to IRC or like some other help channel to ask your questions about how to solve this. You would get help from other people, and this is more like a community effort, whereas in an industry you would have more of a focused like just targeted thing where you have constant meetings. Here you are free to work, but you have to like be focused on one thing which you're working on while gaining community input from what you're working. So anyone in the world without any name can review your code and give you feedback, so you have to address that and so on. So that's a big difference from contributing to open source Bitcoin in general and like an industry job. So, is there a better algorithm? That is a more technical question. The answer is yes. Uh, Dhruv, yes. If you are curious, you can ask me more about that, but that is out of scope for now. You will probably touch on that in the course. in case Bitcoin data is, why isn't it similar to RDBMS? So RDBMS are like, I think, relational database systems, like relational database management systems, where you have like a schema or a relational database type thing. So so you can have a relational data like type Bitcoin database, but in this particular case, we are like, there are two main databases in Bitcoin. One of them is for storing transactions, and the other one is for storing your wallet, like your Bitcoins and your private keys and so on. So the private key one is sort of a relational database where you have key value pairs. It is a like a SQLite database, if you are aware of it. Like the recent one is SQLite database, and the other one is more of a block database where you just put where you input information into your uh, you just add information. You're never editing any information, and when you query information, you query it from a certain, like, you are indexing your database in a certain different way. So you can optimize for uh, addition only, and you also know that you are most probably not going to be querying some things which is already spent, or like a spent transaction output, which you will learn. So the high level answer is Bitcoin databases have some characteristics which are like, which you can optimize things even more, and that is what we abuse. So they are similar, like one database is similar to RDBMS, but this one we can do better, so that's why we shift to that. What is the size of Bitcoin block database? It is around 300 GB, and you will learn about why that grows and why it is important to keep that in check and so on. Do you have a course on Bitcoin blockchain? No, I did not have a course on Bitcoin or blockchain at QIUC. I had courses about like cryptography and applied cryptography, zero knowledge things, and so on, but I did not have any course directly on Bitcoin. The best way to learn Bitcoin is to start. It's just to start at like looking at test framework, looking at things. But now, like, as in, you have a structured approach with this like summer of code, but before that, like, you had to actually start and dive into things. But now also it depends on your curiosity to to start. The biggest concern I hear about Bitcoin is anonymity is huge. It's a huge possibility of illegal. How could developers minimize that? That is something which which everyone has their own personal opinions about. So the question is, like, biggest concern that I hear about Bitcoin anonymity is a huge possibility of illegal/criminal activities, and how can developers help minimize that? So it goes against. So when I send one Bitcoin from person A to person B, it does not matter. Like, Bitcoin system, the goal of Bitcoin system is A should be able to send money to B. It can be for any reason, and there's no way to monitor that. So it is a concern that it might be used for illegal and criminal activities, but so are like, that is not a way to, like, that is not a good reason for us to not use this technology. This technology, like Bitcoin, allows you to like send instant money from fast money from India to US, which you would have to like go through different bank accounts or send money, but that is not a way to not avoid it. You could say the same thing about, say, guns, for example, or war or nuclear missiles or everything. Like, they are used for criminal activities. Internet is used for criminal activities. Mobile is used for criminal activities. But throughout, we find good uses for technologies. And Bitcoin has its good use, which is like, I am able to send money across border internationally as a global currency of internet, without like needing any particular country's currency or going through all these regulations through like spending a whole bunch of extra money. So it is a valid concern that it might be used for illegal things, but that is the same thing with every technology. In terms of Bitcoin OS architecture, how multi-threading works, and could you shed light on parallel processing? So, Bitcoin OS. So Bitcoin is not an operating system. So Bitcoin is a software. It runs on some operating system, and for Bitcoin to operate efficiently, it abuses the underlying architecture to make things run faster. So for example, you could do one of the main projects is to do you do parallel processing of signature verifications. Like signature verifying signatures is like an expensive operation, and you have to do that when you download your blockchain. You have to verify your like all the signatures. That is something which you will learn through the course. But so for that, you would like split up this job across different threads and uh, try to use the threads for that. There are threads where for each different peer in your system, you would want one thread to. There's an ongoing project where we're trying to split Bitcoin into different processes altogether, not even threads. There would be, and that involves like intricate locking, and if you're into those things. So there's thread for network communication, there's thread for processing your information, and that is how like you would use multi-threading in a system like this. Mm, One of the major is scalability. What is being done to improve Bitcoin scalability? So that is true. One of the main hurdles is scalability, and there are technical solutions uh, to improving scalability without losing like the good guarantees of Bitcoin system which we have today. So, for example, when you will learn about these things, so one popularly known solution is like Lightning Network, which provides you like it's called layer 2, or which gives you instant Bitcoin transaction confirmation, and like you can transact at like a million transactions per second instead of like 7 or 8, whatever the Bitcoin base layer is limited at. And there are upgrades at the base level directly, such as the one which we have currently upcoming, which is Taproot, TapScript, which allows you, which makes Bitcoin more private and also increases the Bitcoin scaling, effort in general. So if I have to emphasize, yes, scaling is the main focus right now. Lightning Network is developed at a fast pace. There are more than like 100 active developers and like thousands of businesses who are working on Bitcoin Lightning Network trying to make it more user friendly. We have something which works today. I can send a million transactions per second to someone and transact on Lightning Network. It is not as user friendly as like using like your Paytm or some other app is, but hopefully with some technical challenges we will get there. So yes, scalability is being worked on. Bitcoin, which is Turing complete. So Shubhankar, if this is what I work on. So Turing completeness is not necessary for a Bitcoin scripting language to work. So this has a more complicated reasoning uh, why Turing completeness is not necessary. But you can do everything you want while restricting your language to like without having Turing completeness. So one of the projects which I work on is called Simplicity, which does exactly that. It is not Turing complete, but it allows you all the functionality which you would get on some other like interesting functionalities which you would get on other blockchains. So this when you go into Turing completeness, you run into some other risks where like as I said before, if I tell you to write a C++ program, and if I say you lock in your money with it, you have to be super careful because with the Turing complete language, things can go wrong. It can use many resources. It can run many CPU cycles. It can use large amount of memory, and you cannot statically know if that is going to happen or not. But with like mini script, not Bitcoin script, mini script on the projects I work on, you can know that these things are not going to happen. So yes, there are security reasons. Yes, there are security reasons why we don't want the script to be Turing complete, because it makes analysis of script harder. You have to be very sure. People who write contracts on Ethereum, for example, they give like huge amount of money to professors to verify that what they have actually written is correct, and that is something which is simple for Bitcoin because it is like not Turing complete. But if you have something which is Turing complete and does some complex operations, it is very difficult. And people have lost like 300 million dollars in like a parity wallet bug, which or some other bugs which happened because you allow more expressiveness in it. But there is work been done in one language we call Simplicity, which is like maybe 10 years into Bitcoin, and It's a far futuristic thing, which allows you to do these things while not being Turing complete. Uh, what are your views on proof of history? I am not aware of that. Sorry. Does Lightning Network give? Doesn't it take 10 minutes to? Yeah, you may learn about Lightning Network in this course, but that is long answer. It does give immediate confirmation in the sense that you can spend this money on the Lightning Network to anyone else. But if you want to use that on Bitcoin, you have to make a transaction to go from Lightning Network to the Bitcoin network, and that takes 10 minutes. But if I give you Bitcoin on Lightning Network, you can spend the Bitcoin right away, and it gives you instant confirmation. So yes, Lightning does give instant confirmation, but if you want to go back to the Bitcoin mainnet, that takes time. But if you are using Lightning, you just might as well spend Lightning. It has very little fees. It gives you instant confirmation, and it is private. There is no on-chain footprint of it. So you will learn these things. But to answer your question, yes, yeah, you will. Yes, layer two is exactly scaling stuff. So before, like, we are almost at the end, so you will learn all of these things throughout the course. So instead of asking me technical things, like discussing more technical things about Bitcoin, we can discuss things about like the Indian context in Bitcoin, which is something which I might be able to offer, where maybe other developers who you would be interacting in future might not be able to like have a perspective on things. So for example, like why should you learn Bitcoin? Like, you are at school, like university, I don't know where you are, assuming you are like third, fourth year, or you have graduated. Why should you be interested in Bitcoin? And what does Bitcoin development have to offer you? For example, you have all these amazing things where you can use your computer science skills to show, but what is it like? You are ultimately contributing to a Bitcoin open source software. You're like a part of a community which helps building, making Bitcoin secure, and contributes new future towards it. So that is something which historically we have not had many Indians doing this. Uh, but I wish through this program we will have more people asking questions and starting to contribute to this, because we definitely like have a lot of skill. What differences do you see in how developers communicate? Uh, so in industry, developers are being like, they have a targeted goal and they have to deliver something within some timeline. So they tend to compromise on, or they tend to move faster. In open source and in Bitcoin ecosystem, we are dealing with more security critical things. So we tend to be more slower. In developers, in companies, they just tend to have video calls or in-person meetings to help things move faster. Here we tend to communicate over text on GitHub issues and pull requests, so that everything is open. And if I am away for 1 week doing something, and if I come back again, I know I have all the information there, where I can just like come up like where I can come up and figure out how isn't electricity consumption for mining a potential threat to Bitcoin? No, and yeah, that answer is yeah. You will discuss this later. What is the state job? Uh, what is the state of jobs in Bitcoin and smart contracts in India and around the world? So the good part about, as in, yeah, the sad thing is that we had this pandemic. The good part about and one of the good things that happened, unfortunately, is that uh, people explored a lot of new jobs, and people realized that you can work remotely. So right now we have we have one new grantee from India who is working on open source contribution. There are amongst you, if you go and if you contribute to Bitcoin source, you would like you can get an open source grant to work on Bitcoin related technologies. My company, we would be like looking for, like, we are 100% like remote. Our research team is 100% remote. So we look for people who are like regardless. So your location is not that relevant for like particularly jobs in Bitcoin. And if you get to use, you also get paid in Bitcoin, like which part of my pay is in Bitcoin. So Ritik, Yeah, working at Blockstream is very awesome. I get to work with people who have been working in Bitcoin since the last 10 years, like Peter Villa, who is no longer works at Blockstream but still is there, like Russell. People who have been contributing to Bitcoin for 10 years are super smart. And structure is completely flat. It's just that I have, unlike regular work where I have to go to work and attend mini meetings, I just have one meeting. Our work is 100% open source. We contribute to open source software, and there is no closed door meetings or anything. We just yeah, it's completely flat, like me, my manager, and our CEO, and that is it. And all of our work is in the open source domain, so that's it. Is there any plan to move to proof of stake? No, there is no plan. There is a good, you should join Bitcoin mailing list. You should Google Bitcoin mailing list, and there is a good discussion going on what proof of stake is and what are the trade-offs of proof of stake and so on. And that is one place which all of you should join. When would India be ready for decentralization? India is ready. Like there is no, you don't have to be you don't need the permission of any one individual for decentralization. That is the point of decentralization. Through you guys, through many of the other people, when each individual owns Bitcoin, when people start contributing to Bitcoin, you would have many developers throughout the world. That is decentralization. So there's nothing being ready for it. We are ready. It's just you guys will contribute and we'll go in future.